This is Canada Reads American Style, featuring two friends who love Canada Reads and Canadian literature. Welcome our host Rebecca from Michigan and Tara from Ontario.
Hello and welcome to Canada Reads American Style. This is Tara and today I have with me Joanne Jackson. Hello, Joanne.
Hi, Tara.
Joanne is an award-winning author of 3 novels. Her first novel, The Wheaton, was published in 2019. Her second novel, A Snake in the Raspberry Patch, was the winner of the Crime Writers of Canada's Best Crime Novel Set in Canada for 2023 and shortlisted for Saskatchewan Book Awards 2023. Her latest novel, Sunset Lake Resort, was published in June 2024 by Stonehouse Publishing. And regardless of what weather Saskatchewan throws at her, and I know you get a lot of weather,
We do.
she can often be found walking outside. So yet again, welcome, Joanne.
Thank you.
I am so excited to have you here. So let's jump right in. So as I mentioned, your most recent book is Sunset Lake Resort.
Yes.
In Sunset Lake Resort, we meet Ruby, who finds herself alone for the first time in her life when her husband of 35 years leaves her. Tell us about Ruby and how she found herself at the Sunset Lake Resort.
Okay, Ruby she married, I was also want to say, it's been a few years since I've read the book. That seems funny to people because when you're writing, you always have another book in the back of your mind. And so you finish the book and it goes out into the world and you sort of forget about it for a while and you forget characters' names and you forget everything that they've done. You went until you said 35 years. I'd forgotten that they've been married for 35 years because I've been
That's crazy.
working on another book. I know it's crazy. It does become a product, but anyhow, Ruby inherited the house, the cabin when her father died. Her father was a cold man, not very loving father, and she had an upbringing where she didn't have a lot of attention. So she married later in life because her father was wealthy and he was afraid that she was going to marry someone who would take all of his money. So she finally got married later in life, and her husband was much the same as her father, not a very good marriage. And so she inherited this cabin from her father and left her husband to move to the cabin.
Yeah. After arriving at Sunset Lake, Ruby finds herself, like her story, becoming entwined with that of Cecilia, the previous owner of the resort. Can you tell us a little bit about the mystery surrounding Cecilia?
Oh, okay. Well, I can't remember. She was the second owner of the cabin. The first owners were the people who moved to Canada as immigrants back at the turn of the 20th century, I believe. I can't remember the years now.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. They were what's the word? It's been so long. They bought the land. They could buy the land. You could buy 360 acres, I believe, and settle in Saskatchewan as long as you farmed back at the turn of the century. So they came over from Europe, and that's what they did. And then they bought the cabin at the lake to go as a place for a holiday afterwards, or during the season. During the summer, they would go to the lake for vacation. And then they died, I guess. I can't remember. I think they died, and Cecilia bought the place, and she turned the cabin into a resort of a sort. But the people, this was in the 20s and the 30s, and the people in the town the men in particular weren't very happy that a woman was this great at doing business, and she had a very successful resort. But the men in the town weren't very happy at her creating such a successful business in the middle of the Saskatchewan prairies. And then she died, and there was a mystery surrounding whether she fell off the roof or she was pushed.
Yeah. She was a force.
She was a force. Yeah, she was a very strong, independent woman, Cecilia.
Yeah.
Very strong, independent. As Ruby finds out through the course of the book that she is as well.
Yes.
I think that's probably the theme of the book, yeah. she learns to, she discovers herself.
I also really liked, I'm throwing this at you because this has come to me, because I've mentioned their two stories kind of running, like
Uh-huh.
coming entwined, but you also have a character in the book that connects their two stories, right? The um the older gentleman, and I'm drawing a blank on his name as
Yeah, what's
well.
his name?
Is it George or
No, it's
Gordon?
not George.
No.
No, it's not George. Oh, for heaven's
And I
sakes.
don't have my copy of the book here. I actually lent it to
Oh,
my
do you?
mom.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
love that you had this one character, very elderly,
Wilson. Wilson.
Wilson, that's
Wilson.
it,
Yes. Wilson.
who joined them together, who brought their stories, really connected them
Yes.
together.
He was a very grumpy, gruff man,
Yeah,
but yeah, but he had a soft spot.
he did. He
He had,
did.
yeah.
He was also all the secondary characters I also thought were fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Very well populated community. Like I really love the community that she found herself in.
Hmm.
So this book, mentioning community, has a very strong sense of place. Was Sunset Lake inspired by a real place in your life?
It was. I'm actually, if you could see me, you'd see I'm wearing a sweatshirt that says Emma Lake. So
Oh,
we own a cabin at Emma Lake,
yeah.
and the cabin was originally built by my husband's grandmother back in the 30s. She was she was Cecilia. She was a force. She was an independent woman. She had quite a few husbands over her lifetime, and but she ended up by herself. And to support her two children, she bought property at Emma Lake and had a cabin built on it, and she rented that cabin out. That was the inspiration for the story, Grandma Kinch.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so
She
cool.
was a force. She raised those two children by herself.
Okay, I love knowing that there was a Cecilia.
Yes, there was a Cecilia.
Very cool.
Yes.
Now I'm going to ask you a little technical question about writing, because
Okay.
throughout the novel there are flashback scenes from the present, like from Ruby's time, to the past when Cecilia was building the resort, like developing it. Did you write these scenes like as you were going along? Do you know what I'm
I did.
saying?
I did. I wrote them in order. I probably went back and tweaked after I finished, or on one of the drafts. I would go back. I probably went back and tweaked because I wanted to make them more cohesive to what Ruby's chapter had been about. So I would try to make Cecilia's chapter sort of speak to that as well. But I did write them in order. I did. The book I'm working on right now, I'm not writing them in order because I'm so all over the map in this book I'm working on right now. But this book I did. I wrote them in order.
So you started that knowing that you were going to put flashbacks in.
Yes, I did.
Okay, that's cool.
Cecilia was always there.
Yeah. Okay, that's very cool. So I don't know if I made it clear that there is a mystery surrounding in this book surrounding Cecilia's death. However, it isn't simply a mystery. There's a huge amount of character development.
Hmm.
How do you it's truly a book about Ruby and Cecilia.
Yes,
How do you
and
write?
how much alike they are.
Yes, yes. But yet you still had the mystery. Like I love that, but the mystery was really secondary to the
Yes,
women,
yes,
right?
that's exactly right. That's how a snake in the raspberry patch. My previous book too. The story was about the girl's life in small town Saskatchewan. It wasn't about the mystery of who killed the family. It was the girls' lives in small town Saskatchewan. This is the story of Ruby and how this is the story of Ruby and how she comes into her own, how she learns to make her own way in the world. That's what this is the story of, more than the mystery of how Cecilia died or who killed Cecilia.
Yeah.
I think that's how I like to write. I like to. It's I don't know. I guess it's called a cozy mystery. I don't know if I call this one a cozy mystery, but
Hmm. I would call it a cozy only in that I want to be at that resort. Like I would
yes,
love to be in the cabin that Ruby has restored,
yes, yes.
you
The
know?
cabin is much like description of the cabin is much like what our cabin used to look like when Grandma first built it. It was just a one room cabin with a wall from side to side, cutting the living room, slash dining room and the kitchen slash bedroom. That's and then my father-in-law renovated the cabin back in the 60s, which still is like today. We haven't changed a thing.
Well, I'm coming to visit you if I ever find my way into Saskatchewan.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have you. Yeah.
I will email you. I have your address. Yeah, well, I don't have your address. I have your email address. I
You
can't
do.
stalk you that much.
Yeah,
Don't be too worried.
Well, you can come and have a glass of wine and look at Emma Lake. It's a very
Oh my
nice
God, that would
place.
be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
We go up there every summer. My daughter, who lives in Saskatchewan with her family, they live in Saskatoon with us. They go up to Emma Lake in July, and we go up in August.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Can I ask you, what are you currently reading, or what have you read recently that you've really enjoyed?
Well, when I'm writing a book, I don't tend to read too much.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Oh, and you're
when
currently,
you're
yeah.
writing, your brain is always working and trying to think of what you're going to say. Reading does inspire, I have to say. Even reading a book that has nothing to do with what you're writing, you'll think, "Oh, look at that! Isn't that well said?" And then all of a sudden, something will pop into your mind about what you're writing, and you'll go back to your book and write another page or two. But right now, I've been trying to read Paula Hawkins' The Blue Hour. It's the newest one by Paula Hawkins. She wrote The Girl on the Train.
Yep.
But I've only get about 30 pages in, and then I go back to my book for a few days, and I have to go back and reread Paula Hawkins again because I forget.
I often wondered that if people who write mysteries read mysteries while they're writing, and I guess you don't.
Oh, well, you do a little bit. Like I
Yeah.
keep going back to Liane Moriarty. I like her writing.
Mm-hmm.
Husband's Secret. I like that
Yep.
book too. I keep rereading that one while I've been writing. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I like her writing. You don't really emulate another writer's style, but it does inspire you, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Joanne. This was a great conversation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I encourage everyone to go out, pick up a copy of Sunset Lake Resort, and get lost in Ruby's world and Cecilia's.
Thank you.
Happy reading. Thank you for joining us on our bookish journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing Canada Reads American Style wherever you listen. You can connect with the podcast and Rebecca on Instagram at Canada Reads American Style and with Tara at On a Branch Reads. Until next time, keep reading.